Welcome to St. Joseph Evangelization Network. I'm your host for the next 3 minutes. We're here live at the Two Hill for the Catholic Men for Christ. You're going to hear some noise in the background. That's because we have this conference going on with a couple thousand men. And we have Paul with us. Paul, tell me your last name, Paul.
Sure. Paul Gewalt.
Paul Gewalt.
Yep.
Good to meet you, Paul. I understand you have a military service. Let me tell you one of the best speeches I heard. It was, I hope it's okay to talk about the Navy. I don't know which branch you're in. You'll tell me in a minute. But this Navy with a lot officer, a lot of brass on. He said, "Why should you make your bed in the morning?" And it was a lead-in into order and commitment and perseverance. And it was a commencement speech. It may have been one of the shortest I ever heard, but it told me that the military and military life probably has a lot to teach us men. You were in the military for how long?
Several years, about 34 years.
34, and tell me about that.
You know, it was kind of a third-class way to see the world. I was in the Air Force and crewed transport, mostly aircraft, so we saw a lot of different parts of the world. But I have no complaints at all. It was a lot of growing experience, and the Army has a expression from a while back. I think they still use it. A great place to start. And the military is good for that. But I think everybody ought to have some service commitment.
Right.
Doesn't have to be armed services, but some service commitment to their country, their faith. That says, I have learned some things, I know how to share, I know how to work with people, that type of thing. And that discipline that it teaches you, you can learn some of that at home, but learning that on your own means a lot.
Tell me, does this translate? We're here at the Catholic Men for Christ Conference. You're here. Is there a connection?
Sure. It's all connected, and everything we do is really connected. I am born and raised a Catholic, not from St. Louis, originally from Milwaukee.
I'm from Chicago. We're neighbors.
There you go. My wife Helen is a physician here in town, and she's the president of Credo of the Catholic Laity.
Oh wow!
We just sponsored Cardinal Burke for a large 600-person dinner last weekend, and the same weekend that the March for Life was going on, we still mustered 600 people to
good for you
for a sellout for Cardinal Burke. So
good for you.
We're active in the church. We're at the oratory of Saint
Gregory,
Gregory and Augustine.
Yeah, right.
And Monsignor Morris.
Sure.
He's our rector and just.
Isn't he a treasure?
He's full of fire, and he's.
Oh man. Cardinal Burke, we interviewed him last week, or 2 weeks ago, I should say, and he's a smart and intelligent guy, and he's got a great message. What a holy man that we need for the church. Zip, he's a funny guy. I mean, he's intelligent and a man of faith. Monsignor Morris, who I love. Okay, these other two guys are not going to get a word in edgewise with Monsignor. He is so much fun. Tell me, you mentioned something, and we're at the Catholic Men for Christ, so we're talking about how men can be better fathers, better husbands, more spiritual. Let me just say something crazy. I am old enough to remember the Latin Mass. I am, but I don't remember it. And my men's group, 10 years ago or so, we said we're going to have a field trip on First Saturdays. When it was at St. Anselm's, we went to the Latin Mass on First Saturdays. Mm-hmm. I thought it would be unwelcoming, impersonal. I got to tell you, it was anything but. I was praying with the priest. It was this great sense of reverence. If you haven't been to a Latin Mass, you ought to go. Tell us where it is.
It's a good lead-in, Peter, and I appreciate it. The word oratory basically means it's not a geographical parish. It can draw from all over. We have people that are at the oratory of St. Gregory and Augustine is co-located at the parish of St. Luke the Evangelist in Richmond Heights.
Right.
It's just off of 64 and Bellevue, and the masses are mixed in a little bit, that type of thing. But the Latin Mass that we attend is the same Mass, when you start thinking about it, that has been done by this church for at least 500 or 600 years, and is connected directly, of course.
It worked. It worked for 500 or 600 years. It probably still works.
And everything there is reverent. The first thing you notice, and I won't go into too many details, but it is not much unlike this area. As soon as you walk into that church, you know you're in a different place.
Absolutely.
It is quiet.
Absolutely.
There's a tabernacle. Christ Jesus manifested incarnate is on the altar, and everyone respects that. And from then, it just builds with.
I got to tell you, I've been to Mass all over the world in every language, whether I understand it or not. And Father Bede, who used to say the Latin Mass, he once told us, if you were at a great gathering and the President of France gave this great speech and everybody was cheering and enjoyed it and was motivated, and you didn't understand a word, it wouldn't change the fact that he was there and he did it. Because we don't understand every word doesn't mean we are not participating in the experience, right? It is our Mass as much as the priest. So I encourage everyone to try and go and attend a Latin Mass. You will be really surprised. Well, we're here at the Catholic Men for Christ, here at the Two Hill Live, and it's toned down a little bit. I think the next speaker is starting. I'm your host, Peter Karutz. Please visit us at sjen.tv, where you'll see this interview and many other lectures, talks, where you will really grow in your faith. God bless you all.